Hello, in truth. We are super excited to talk about our topic today. I am Dr. Isela Garcia,
I'm Nina Vasquez.
and we are going to just explore the whispers of the universe. This is the term that I don't even know where the hell I came up with this term. I may have heard it somewhere. I may have created it. I have no idea. But the whispers of the universe are these little subtle it's like this subtle communication that we get from spirit. And spirit might be your intuition, your highest self, your deepest I. In truth, it's all the same thing, by the way. It's just how we relate to it. And one of the things early on when I was really starting to develop my trust in my intuitive nature, I a lot of people who I was around would talk about the universe hitting them with the 2x4. And what I mean by that, it's like, this big thing would happen in their life. They would get, drop down to their knees in this dark night of the soul is what a lot of people call it. I call it the dark night of the ego. And because I don't think the soul has dark nights, I think it's the ego that feels threatened. And so it's like so when I would talk to folks about these big, huge sort of experiences that open them up to, who they are and their experiences of life and their alignment with source, I wondered, did you get these messages beforehand? Like, were there things that were kind of leading you in this direction before you got the 2x4? And inevitably, we all get these little messages. We all get these little subtle sort of sensations or feelings or thoughts, or like something will come to us, and like these hunches will come to us and we kind of ignore them. And so one day, after I think it was several friends, I heard their story of, these sort of dark night of the ego experiences, I said to the universe, I don't want to learn that way. I want to learn the easy way. I don't want to learn like that.
No.
And I've always been one of those people that if somebody says to me, go this way, don't do this way. And when I was in my 20s, most of my best friends were in their 40s. And so they had already had like 20 years of life experience more than me. And so they're like, Isela, make sure you do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I won't go down this path. I'm going to do this instead. And so I said to the universe, I want to learn things easily and I will listen to those whispers. You whisper and I'm going to act upon it. And so Nina and I were talking about this, about the journey of learning how to listen and take action. And it comes in lots of different ways. So Nina, what's your experience with this?
Well, first of all, I want to say at the beginning, we were breaking up so terribly. So if you're just joining us, let us know, say hi. But I think our connection is like good again. Say hi, and we're going to talk about this, but you also have an opportunity to go live and get coached if you want to get coached by us. What is my experience with this? Well, shoot. I would say that I've had a few 4x4s. I've been knocked upside my head with a few 4x4s in my life because I would say I did not at the time, looking back, recognize that had whispers of the universe, that I was being guided. That I had any whispers at all. So looking back in the present moment, I was so disconnected from my body. And so, sometimes whispers show up through emotion, through, like an actual thought. I was so disconnected from my thoughts and my emotions that I didn't know I was being whispered to. So usually something crazy had to happen for me to wake up to anything at all, but lately in my healing journey, I would say I've been on an awakening and healing journey for going on 2 years. So 2 years, I believe. I might have the timeline wrong. But about 2 years. And I'm hearing whispers from the universe a lot more lately. And Isela's really helped me with it because I didn't know I was hearing whispers from the universe. I would just be like, oh, I would say things like, oh, it's coming to me, or I think I'm supposed to say this. And I didn't realize that was spirit or the universe or God. I just thought it was my own thoughts. But now I'm able to hear like truth. That's the only way I can say it. And right before we came on, I was telling Isela one of the whispers. I'll share it with you. So in my life's journey, I would used to identify as a procrastinator. I would procrastinate everything. And it didn't matter. It could be something really small, like filling up the water pitcher after it's empty. Just like push it off till later, and so that's what happened to me today before our call. Was I was getting water, filling up my water, and it was getting empty. And in the past, I'd be like, I don't have time. I'll come back and do it later. My later self would do it. And this time I heard this thought that sounded like this. And it was not around any other thoughts, just it said, do it now, interrupt the pattern. Twice, do it now, interrupt the pattern. And I had a moment where I could ignore that. And then a moment where I chose not to. But in the past, when I had a whisper like that, I would just choose not to and ignore it. And that's just a really small example, but that built up over a whole day, a whole week, a whole month of procrastination. You start to feel a lot of shame and guilt around it because you can't get yourself to do things. But usually the whisper is subtle. And that might not even seem like a whisper from the universe to other people, but for me, I knew it was because I've been working to break patterns. And yeah, so that's my journey with whispers. And I think I'm still leaning into what whispers sound like. And when it's like my mind and when it's a whisper from the universe. And Isela, tell us how to distinguish, because you've really helped me with that.
So discernment is a really big word that's used in the spiritual community. And, when I'm a teacher and a student of A Course in Miracles, and there's a saying in A Course in Miracles. The saying is, what voice are you listening to? Are you listening to the voice of the ego, or are you listening to the voice of spirit? Okay. And so when we talk about spirit, a lot of people have a different definition of what does spirit mean. It could be your guides. All of us have at least 2 guides. And it could be your highest self, your truest self. It could be source itself. It could be lots of things. In truth. So if we kind of unroll it all, it's all the same thing. Okay. And this is what's really hard for people to understand. So like your highest self is source. Your deepest I is source. Angels and guides are source. Like they all come from that same source energy. And so when we know that, we know that the only thing that's real is love. That's it. The only thing that's real is love. Everything else is just kind of a figment of our little pretend imagination that we've created. Because God is source, or God as source of all, is love in all the things that love creates, which is joy and happiness. And that's why, when we're in a state of gratitude, when we're in a state of joy, when we're in a state of happiness, we're actually aligning with what we already are. And so that's why it's so powerful. So once you understand that only love is real, and you start to recognize what does love feel like for you, And this is a really big deal, because a lot of us who have experienced trauma, we disconnect ourselves from our emotional state. We disconnect ourselves from the feelings part that happens within our bodies. We think our feelings, which is really fascinating. We think our feelings, like I'm feeling sad right now. Where are you feeling sad? In my mind.
In my head.
I'm supposed to be sad right now, right? And so we've got to get connected to our bodies, because when we start to feel love, there's a radiation of love that we feel. And what's happening is we're getting light energy, because we're dense, and the more and more work and healing we do, the lighter we become. So light gets to permeate within us, and we feel the radiation of love. Okay. Why this is important when we're listening to the whispers of the universe is because the way you discern is whether the message you're getting feels like love, and it feels like calmness, and it feels like peace, and it feels like joy, because those radiate from love, right? So it feels good. And even if it's like, do this instead of that, there's a sense of just feeling good, which is feeling God. On the other side, ego, and there's one ego. There isn't, like, each one of us doesn't have our own, ego. Now, the way that we interpret ego is going to be based on our own perceptions of reality, our experiences, our culture, our beliefs, our biases, all of those things. So the ego's voice is going to be judgy. And the ego's voice is going to say that we're not enough. And the ego's voice is going to say, why the fuck can't you do this? That's the ego's voice. And there's going to be a sense of urgency behind it sometimes too. Like, hurry up, hurry up. Oh, something horrible is going to happen. Like that's the ego driving that fear-based, because ego is fear. It's a separation from source, or it's the idea of separation from source. And there's fear that it's rooted in, but really the way it shows up is, need to be an individual, need for control, need to be seen. And so if you can kind of get into that, I don't want to say get into that energy, but know that energy, because we've all experienced it. We've all experienced, because we're one with our ego, right now. That's kind of how we function in our world here. So when you start to kind of recognize the differences between the two, when you get these little whispers of the universe, you're like, oh no, that feels like it's coming from a place of love.
Okay. Yeah. All of this is just landing for me so much. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about ways in which the trauma healing world labels ego.
Oh yeah.
Come with me on this, because I don't know where this is going, but here's what's happening. I'm thinking of like parts work, internal family systems. I'm thinking about inner child. I'm thinking about, primitive brain. I'm thinking about, because right before our call, I had a client session and we were talking about this. She has a desire on her heart for a business idea, and the ego is wanting her to believe this story that she's not going to see it through, and it's not going to work, and it's all the limiting beliefs, right? And we can spend a lot of time on discovering, okay, what is this? What is the ego trying to protect me from, right? But what do you do, Isela, when you know you're having the ego is giving you all these things that are creating fear for you? Because that's really the underlying emotion. What do you do? What's your process?
Well, first of all, every situation is uniquely different. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there isn't one way to address this, but let's just kind of explore the idea about, I'm afraid to try something new and try something different. Okay? Yeah. So from a spiritual lens, when we recognize that ego's job is to keep us, number one, seeking. So it always wants us to think that we're not enough, that we don't have enough knowledge, enough education, enough know-how to navigate that experience. So that's ego. Ego also wants us to fight for independence, that we are separate, that we are more special, that we are yeah, that we are different than everybody else. It doesn't like the idea of oneness.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Ego also seeks power and control, and that can look lots of different ways. And so that's from sort of a spiritual lens. It's the notion that we are separate. It's the belief that we are separate from others and from source, and we fight for that independence. So I know that from a spiritual lens. And then I'm going, okay, I'm going to delve a little bit deeper because I might have a story in
Yeah.
my experience of life where I have received either messages that have formed limiting beliefs about taking a risk,
Mhm.
about, my belief about whether I have the ability to do something like this.
Yeah.
And so I talk about things in two levels. So the level of form and then the level of my awareness beyond time and space. And so
Okay.
that awareness beyond time and space is an ego sort of understanding, right? And then I'm
Mhm.
going to drop down and I'm going to go, okay, where did that story come from? What's getting activated within me? Is there something within my physical form that gets activated when I think about the notion of me stepping into the unknown, right?
Yeah.
What fears are coming up for me?
Mhm.
So it might be a fear that is deeply rooted in the present or, near like recent experiences, or it could be something when I was 15 or when I was 25 or when I was 30, whatever, that there could be a story or a memory or something that I remember in my body that keeps me from stepping into the belief that I can do this, the even taking inspired action, like to actually make things happen
Yes.
that's actually holding me back.
Yeah.
So I go through that process. I go, okay, hello, ego. I see you stepping forward. I see that you want me to not move and do anything right now. I know that you are trying to get me to believe that I need to take 5 more workshops or get a certificate in this or do these things and have this much experience before I move forward. So that's the conditioning that we have, that we've been exposed to, and ego likes to kind of, step forward with that. And then I drop into the level 2.
Mhm.
It's level 1, level 2. But I drop down into this and I go, okay, where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And then that's where the healing can happen.
This is the important work part. I mean, it's all, there's no like, well, this is the most important and that's not, it's all together, right?
Right.
Because if you do just I notice this is ego, I can see from a spiritual standpoint that that's ego, that's not of spirit, that's not the whispers of spirit. You miss out on, um, and it will still hold you back because your body keeps the score. So you miss out on discovering, is there a wound or healing that needs to happen? And, or you might just need to create safety in your body, several like ongoing at the very beginning of
Mhm.
this new journey that you're going to go on. Because I think sometimes we think if it's a whisper of the universe, we're not going to be afraid. That's not true.
Right.
For me, that hasn't been true. Every time I get like this nudge from the universe, it's kind of going in a direction where I am afraid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be doing this right now. Like, seriously, like, I had a good career. I was in the work of early childhood education. I am a national trainer and presenter.
Mhm.
I know my work and I do it well. And I have gotten a lot of support and accolades for the way that I show up for
Mhm.
children, particularly children who have experienced trauma, and adults trying to figure out themselves as they work with young children. Like, I did that shit well and I love that work. But the universe has been shoving me out of the spiritual closet for the last, I'm going to say 10 years. And I've been doing little bit, but I still had major contracts that were really important to me. They were really around equity, and equity work is important work, and I knew that it was divine work as well. So the universe has been so supportive of me as I have slowly transitioned away from that work into this spiritual work. But that's been whispers. And do I want, like, do I really, like, if I had a choice to step out and tell everybody that, that I talk to dead people in spirit? No, no, no. This is not my choice. This is spirit saying, Isela, either you do this, like, we're going to whisper this to you, and either you step out or a 2x4 is going to come and you're not going to have any other choice. And so I'm like, okay, because I made the deal with the universe. And it's been very, very, the universe has been very supportive of me. And what I mean by that, it's like, I get opportunities still in that work to be able to sustain my spiritual work that I do here. And yeah, whispers are not always simple and easy. Sometimes they scare the shit out of you, and you would rather stay doing what you've always done.
Yeah. I mean, that's a human experience though, right? That's what the human experience, that's what the human brain wants you to do. It's really good at repetition, doing the thing you've always done. I realized that I'm not live on Instagram. I got distracted and noticed that I forgot to hit go live. So
You didn't hit the button.
I did hit the go live button.
I've done that.
Is imperfection happening over here. Yeah.
Oopsie.
Outside of that's a huge whisper of the universe, right? That's a huge, what's something else that, like, what's some, like, just something that has been a whisper for you outside of that, as an example?
I think more than anything, it's the reminder to employ the skills that I have when I'm in the middle of reacting to something. So, I've worked a really long time of moving myself from a place of reacting to responding. And that really, it just takes practice. It's noticing the moment that you're starting to either get activated, irritated, frustrated. It's like all of those feelings those emotions that might show up. And I've had a lot of practice too, because I worked with kids for a long time. When a 4-year-old says, "Fuck you, bitch, I'm going to kill you," you have to be able to, like, pause, right? You have to be able to, like, recognize that, this young child really, and is coming at you with a hammer. I mean, like that. I have literally lived that many, many times over. And so how do you go from a place of reacting where you just want to emotionally do something now and put that pause in between and be able to respond from a place of, critical thinking and a calm approach. And so I have practiced a lot for many, many years in doing that. And so with my family, with my daughter and my husband, it would be so much easier for me to just say, like, what's the matter with you? And why are you doing this? How many times do I have to tell you? It's like,
Yes.
And so I hear, take a breath, step back. And there were times when I do say, I'm going to need a minute to think about this, or I want to respond to you in a way that that recognizes your perspective of things. And I need to be able to kind of think this through a little bit for myself. Or I will, like, literally just kind of put my hands here and take a couple deep breaths before I respond. And so I get these little, like, nudges, like, how to do this, pause for a moment and do it, when it just would be so much easier for me to just, react.
Yeah, that's so good.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is life altering,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we're going to be, in relationship, you always say you don't do the healing outside of relationship. And every time you just get invited to be able to use the tools that you have. As you're talking, I was thinking about what whispers what other whispers I've been having. And something I've noticed I haven't shared with you, Isel, is I think that the universe whispers to me in song sometimes. Have you ever just been thinking, hearing a song in your mind? And this is new for me, but it'll be just a specific verse of the song. And then I'll hear it again. And I'll be like, okay, we're not singing this song this morning. You know, that was my initial reaction, was like, singing a dumb song this morning. And sometimes it's Pink. It's always Pink with me. But like, okay, why am I singing this song? I haven't heard it in a long, long time. So that's been lately something I've been noticing, and it's just a specific verse. And so
What song? What Pink song is it?
can't remember it now. I shared it. I should have written it. I know you're going to say you should have wrote it down in your journal.
Mine is Kendrick Lamar. Hey, Drake, you're like young, but I don't think that's spiritually guided.
It was a good part. And oh yes, I know it. Yep. Because in the mornings, I sit back there with my coffee and I just sit with the coffee, it was being with the coffee. And this is new for me this year. And I heard, you're not broken. You can learn to love again. You can learn to love again. Just that over and over and over again. And I was like, no, we're not going to sing a song this morning. I'm trying to be more of in a meditative state, feeling the warmth of my coffee, looking out the window. And then I hear this song. And I'm like, I mean, not the whole song, just that part. So I'm like, okay, I hear you, right? I get it. So I thought that was really cool. That was the latest one this week. Mm-hmm.
I think that is a really, really important point. So many of the approaches and the things that we have been taught come from a very white male lens. And what I mean by that is even true for the rules around meditation and about, things of what Zen looks like. And so we have to acknowledge that there are many ways that we receive messages. And it could be through song. It could be sensations in the body. And for those of you who have seen me do readings with people intuitive readings, like on Facebook, when I used to be on Facebook, when I do those, I can feel into people's energy, and I can kind of like, there are times when I'm like, are you congested? Like, it feels like I can't breathe. And so there are sensations of the body that could give you messages. It could be you get a cool like air, just kind of like, and you're not in a space where there's a fan, or you're not outside, and all of a sudden you'll get a cool breeze kind of come by you, and you're like, okay, what are you trying to communicate with me? And so there are lots of ways, even with meditation, the idea that we have to sit a particular way, sit for X amount of time. You have to quiet your mind. That really isn't true.
Yeah.
There are lots of ways that we communicate. What it comes down to, though, is being able to discern which voice am I listening to? Am I listening? And let me tell you what else is hard, because this is a really big one. So we have this thing called neuroception that is developed over just because of our experiences of life. And so we'll have a sensation about someone or something. And a lot of us have had this, where we will come into contact with somebody and we're like there's something creepy about that person, right? We're just like, right? We're like, alarm, right? And sometimes that's valid. And other times it's because I've had shitty experiences with men.
Yes.
Or men that look like that. Men that wear a ball cap backwards. And I'm like, oh, there's something about his energy and that freaks me out. Well, that's because we have had an experience that goes, men that look like that, men that wear ball caps backwards like that, people who look this way, experiences that are like this, are something that you need to be alert of, right? You need to like be careful with that. And so sometimes people will have that as their compass. And so something will happen and they're like, oh, my intuition said da 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 da. I'm like, well, that may not be your intuition. That might be neuroception because of a story and a connection that you have made. Because remember, intuition is loving guidance. It feels comforting, it feels warm, even in the nudges to do this instead of that. It always comes from a place of love.
That is a big distinguishment between intuition and, a trauma response in your body. What? My words aren't coming out. Okay, so the sensation in the body. This is so interesting to me. I'm experiencing more sensations in my body than before, way more. And I'm noticing, like, I'll be laying on the couch and I'll just get like sensations from my feet all the way up the right side of my leg. And then I'm like, I'm not moving enough, maybe. What's going on? My mind's like trying to figure it out, but as you're saying that, I can pay a little bit more attention to, maybe it's not that I'm not moving enough. Maybe I'm like having sensation. I'm being spoken to. Something's happening here. So we can be a little bit more curious instead of jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, curiosity, I think, is more once you really start to kind of explore what could be happening. Because like you could totally have neuropathy.
Exactly.
You
Right.
might have a problem.
You might.
Yeah, right.
I love that. The other thing I wanted to speak to is, the neuroception. On my healing journey, I did not like men who had curly chest hair.
I'm only kidding.
My body was like a no. This was because of childhood abuse. Mm-hmm. And if they're Hispanic, add an extra layer of that. And so interesting enough, I went to an event called Awaken, and we did this thing where I had to have can't remember, we were expressing love to men in a way where they had their eyes closed. And so we were like loving them gently through gentle touch or voice so they could hear the feminine speaking love into them, speaking into them. And I chose someone who I would not have chosen. And I didn't even know it until I got close. And I was like, oh shit, I think the reason why I chose this person was because like that I would not have chosen that. It was like I was guided over there. Right. And it was such a unique experience because I got to see him, cry and weep because he had never, I don't know his story. You just feel, that maybe there was a feminine wound or a mother wound or something. There's something there. You'd never been praised that much, and it just reminded me that, the body, I was guided there, but that wasn't me saying I'm going to go there. I was guided there when I was ready. Right. But up until then, I would never have been ready. So, I mean, it's not like I said consciously, go to this guy, So yeah, I don't know how that, I can only say it must have been the universe saying it's time, time to do that healing.
That's a powerful experience for both the people who are offering love and then the person receiving it. I can imagine it being activating on lots of different levels.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very healing. It was very opening. It was very healing. And then when they opened their eyes, the people that were giving them love were not in front of them anymore.
Oh, wow.
And so that was really powerful because they just got to receive, and we got to receive it as well as women, but in a different way. But yeah, it was healing for me. It was healing for me to see, I was able to see almost like This is going to sound interesting, but I was able to see that I was able to see the wounded child of my abuser.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, those experiences really shape how we make sense of things and the meaning we put to people and things and experiences.
Yeah.
And so that's why healing is so critically important in the awakening process, because some people will confuse their intuition with an experience that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
And so they get a sensation that is an alert, but really that is a story of pain or trauma that has occurred. And so
A
the
lot.
healing process allows for us, like you just shared, whether that, whatever the healing is, it could be that you are integrating, that you are accepting, that you are releasing, that you are forgiving. There isn't one way to work through situations and to heal from them. And then it's almost like we're clearing your channels out.
Yes.
And so once we clear the channel out well enough, your intuition becomes louder and easier for you to be able to interpret in ways that are supportive and loving and responsive, because people interpret what they believe is their intuition and it's like alert, and that's not it.
And yeah, you're right. You're right. And it just goes to show you don't have to speak your story to heal.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And I literally set an intention for that. It was a 3-day event. And I literally set the intention before I went that I was going to heal my father wound, right? The masculine wound. And Isela, are you there?
Yeah, you froze up on me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay. I literally went there to heal the masculine wound, to heal my father wound. And Isela and I just talked about this, and this kind of goes with the whispers of the universe. You know, ask ask for what you need at the pace you need it. Because I told Isela, I just said, I just want to be awakened. Show me the truth. And like, whoa, that has put me in situations that are challenging. But in this case, I set the intention,
Mhm.
and then I didn't know. I just trusted what will unfold. And the universe guided me through where I needed to heal. Right. And, maybe it was a nudge. I didn't know at the time that I was being nudged to do those things. But ask for what you want to heal or what you want to be shown, and then trust that you're going to be shown it.
Mhm.
Right. In whichever way it comes. Mm-hmm.
But what's important about that, Nina, is that if you ask for what needs to be shown, or some for guidance and support through whatever the process is, you have to be present to see it.
Mm.
And that's where folks are like, I didn't get the message and I don't know what, the universe never responded. The universe always responds, not in the way that you want them to. But the universe always responds. The key
Yeah.
is that you have to be fully present, because if you're worried about the future or you're feeling some guilt about the past, you're not actually present enough to be able to see, hear, or feel the whispers of the universe.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a practice in itself. And, Isel and I, if you're listening, there's a lot of videos that we've done over the past several weeks that can help you be more present, be
Mhm.
more connected to your body. And so, if you feel like that's a stretch to be present, we see you. We know how challenging it can be in this world, but it's possible.
Mhm.
And it's just moments. You can create moments of in your life to be present and open. Yeah.
So there's a quick story I want to share. I don't know why I'm sharing this, but again, whispers of the universe. My daughter recently, she's been exploring how to have deeper connections with people. She tends to keep people sort of at a distance. and she just entered upon a relationship with, she's 16, with a boy, and they're friends. So there's not any kind of interest in anything more than a friendship. But even with friendships, that she tends to like to keep people sort of at a distance. And what that means is that, they really don't talk via text outside of school. They don't hang out. She kind of has her routines at home, and that don't involve other people except for me. And so they've been kind of hanging out virtually, playing games. They do video games together, talking about life, that kind of thing. It's been really nice. And then she came into my office, and she was having a sensation here, and she was getting like tightness in the chest, tightness in her stomach. And she goes, "This is what I get. This is what's happening right now." And I said, "Do you think it's in relation to," and then, said his name. And she's like, "Yeah, I feel like I don't know what to do or what to say." And so the process is for her, and I think for a lot of people, is sometimes we don't have a memory as to why, because she doesn't remember why she has friendship trauma, like the details of it. She remembers instances that occurred, but not the level of which it had affected her. And so she just gets this sensation in her body where she's like, "Okay, I'm feeling like I need to step away. I want to run away. I feel this tightness in my chest." And so I want people to know that sometimes it's a messy situation. Sometimes we get these sensations in the body that are a memory, and it
Mhm.
gives us the opportunity to explore what is happening. And we don't have to have the whole story. Like you were saying, Nina, you don't have to revisit the whole story. We can learn to acknowledge that it might be maybe some fear around getting close to someone.
Mhm.
And let's explore what that fear might, what's the story that we're telling ourselves about that. And
Mhm.
so we can explore the present experience, but this is a gift to us. So like when it shows up for us, we get to kind of unpack what it means for this present experience that we are having, and then moving forward. And so we did some somatic work. We did some work around, how to talk to herself, talk her through it. We did some deep breathing, and we didn't have to tell the whole story all over again in order to move forward. And what's phenomenal about this is that she has recognized it within herself before it gets to that level. She's like, "Oh, I'm starting to feel that." Now she's calling it, she calls it anxiety, but it's like apprehension, like right in here. And the moment she starts to feel it, she starts to utilize the skill set she has, to be able, the resources she has, to be able to move through the experience, to open up the possibility of keeping a relationship that's important to her.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
And
It's
so
just
those,
like
I
so
usually say
cool.
those are like whispers, like it's like
Mm.
the universe is working for you. It's working for in the direction of healing always. It's just, it's this culmination. And I use those four areas. It's the
Yeah.
four aspects of the self, which is the body. The physical body is huge in terms of how we receive messages and information. And we do that through sensations. Our emotional state tells us a story
Mhm.
about what's happening within us, or past memories. We have our intellectual self, which is important,
Yes.
really resides in that space. And then our sacred self, and our sacred self plays, that's our intuitive nature. That's our connection to spirit. That's the truth of who we are. And so it's this dance between all of those things, and just being fully present for it
Yeah.
is how you can actually navigate through the awakening journey.
Mhm. Mhm. I love it. And the biggest growth opportunity in this area for me is being silent enough, or quiet enough, I should say, and present enough. Right. If I'm quiet enough and present enough, and that, I would imagine I'm not alone in that, but that is my biggest takeaway in this area, is allow myself to hear and listen.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you all very much for joining us today. If you are watching this and you're still hanging with us, know that we are on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we are also open to live coaching on Wednesdays. So, and we don't bite, we promise.
We won't bite you. If you were close to me, I might squeeze your teeth. Just kidding.
So we look forward to connecting with you if you ever wanted to join us on live here. And yeah, and also Nina, let me tell you all, we have a community. We have a community on Circle. And so I will drop that information in the comments here. You can also go to our prior videos, and I believe the Circle community application is there as well. This is a space that we have created, that we are creating. It's a brand new space that our hopes are that we continue to have conversations around spiritual development, and we align it with our healing journey.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of, I think, amazing experiences that we have planned. And so please join us if this is of interest to you in our Circle community.
Yes. We want to see you there.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye, guys.